And welcome back. The conversation continues. The DMGB conversation is happy to welcome good friend, entrepreneur, fitness extraordinaire, Mr. Absolutely Do It All, Go FroPro all the time, my good friend, Matt Williams. Matt, welcome to the conversation.
Hey, great to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's absolutely my pleasure. It's my pleasure to have you here to be able to share your story, to be able to highlight where you come from, what you do, what you're about. I obviously am a big fan of FroPro. If you guys don't know about what it is, it's an unbelievable snack bar. Um, and I'll let Matt tell us about the origins of it. But if you're looking for pre-workout, post-workout, meal replacement, whatever it is, it absolutely works for everything. And we'll talk about how he got there. So Matt, welcome to the show. Want to give you a chance to kind of tell us where you're from and how you got to where you are right now at FroPro, and tell us a little bit about FroPro.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you for having me again. Also a big fan of you and what you're doing and following your journey. So keep crushing it, and an honor to be on the show. Originally from New York, just outside the city, grew up there, spent majority of my time there, went to college, went to grad school, and all of that resulted in me coming down to South Florida for a job. I was a teacher and a coach for a long time, and got down here, and at the age of 28 finally had the realization and was able to accept that my life wasn't really going too well. A lot of poor decisions led me to a place where I lost everything as a result of drinking and drugging, and kind of started over, and was finally ready to admit that I needed help and asked for help, and then essentially just followed the people that had done it before me. In that process of starting over, I started to focus on some things I wasn't really. I won't say I was allowed to teach or coach again, but it was. It wasn't really an option. I had come down here for a private school teaching position and had not re-signed my contract. So when this all, when my DUI and my decision making kind of, I don't say forced me to stay down here, but there's a great recovery community down here, and I stayed, and I didn't have anything to come back to. So lost the car, lost the lost the job, lost any real sense of who I'd been really working to be and become, and at one point really wasn't appreciative of it. So there's a definite loss of and lack of gratitude or and appreciation for my life and how hard I worked and the people that helped me get there. So at 28, started over again, and in that process, FroPro was born. FroPro is a peanut butter snack bar, and it was essentially something that I like to eat myself, and had these ingredients in my house, and I started making my own thing because I didn't really have any money, and it was the easiest thing to transport around in my backpack when I was riding my bike everywhere. And it's been a crazy journey. That idea was in 2011. I got sober in 2010, and then 2011 I just started making these things. And what was cool about it was everybody was pretty supportive. I didn't really think it was anything. So, I was still working with some kids and training and mentoring and tutoring and all that stuff. And I had them and I shared them with people. And it was just one of those things where I shared with people and they're like, hey, this is really good, and you should do something with that. And at that point in my life, I was still pretty ashamed of what had happened, and losing everything, and just kind of being an extrovert, but an introverted fashion. I didn't want anybody to know, but everybody knew. And it was one of those things that I started to, share with people, and people liked it. And like any good thing, I, uh, I sat on it for a while because I was terrified. I didn't, I knew people liked it, but at the same time, I didn't want people to not like it and to give me any negative feedback.
Right.
So I essentially kind of buried it for a little bit. So, in burying that, I didn't do anything with it except make it for myself. And, when my opportunity to work at my friend's gym came about, I got my foot in the door and started training a little bit. And it was incredible because, you know, I'm a big believer, if you don't ask, you're never going to know. So if you ask, the answer is going to be either yes or no or not right now. So it's typically yes or no. And a not right now is no, but yes in the future anyway. So, these guys gave me an opportunity to bring the product in, and again, I didn't want my name on it, so I put it out for people and said, hey, they're like, hey, yeah, the local snack bar company wants you to try the product after you work out or before you work out, and the response I got was incredible. People liked it. I got honest feedback because they knew I was like they knew I was the kid that was like new to this place, and this place had just opened, and they knew the owners and everything. But I was the new guy, and some knew my story, so I didn't want anybody to feel bad for me and be like, "Hey, man, it's really good. Like, keep it up." Like I didn't want any of that.
Right.
And the response was good, and the feedback was good, and there was some adjustments to be made, and it got in front of this woman who had a juice bar, and this right before the juice bar thing was taken off, and right before like the meal prep meal companies were coming out, and this is like,
Right.
I feel like ancient saying this. This is back in the day. This is like a long time ago.
Right.
And it was great. She said, I'd like to try this. However, I'm plant-based, and I eat things a certain way. And so she kind of educated me on that. And I learned how to redo the bar with plant-based protein, organic peanut butter, gluten-free oats, honey, and cinnamon. Made it, brought it to her. She tried it. She was like, hey, Matt, this is great. I own a juice bar. And I didn't know that at the time. She said, I'll
The question of, is this the original recipe? Is this like the FroPro original bar that we're talking about before you expanded into other flavors?
Yes, this is the original. We called it a chocolate bar. This is the original, yeah, because it was chocolate. It was made with dairy, and then I still call it chocolate because I thought that was okay. But chocolate didn't. Chocolate denotes milk chocolate, and that is not allowed if you're a plant-based item. So we learned how to use cacao powder, and that's how we initially started. So yes, that's the original bar that is now in the brown cacao packaged bar.
Got it. Okay. Got it. Perfect.
Yeah.
And so that kind of bar started to take off. So you had great feedback. The juice bar lady, you critiqued the recipe. You got it into the juice bar. Is that the first place that it ever lived outside of the gym?
Yeah, that was the first place that I was sold. It was cool. I figured out how to wrap 100 in this really rudimentary packaging. It was essentially Glad press and seal. And I cut that up, wrapped it up, put a sticker on it, and brought it to her, and she sold it. And 3 days later, she's like, "Hey, I sold 100. Give me 100 more." And it was kind of cool. It was very grassroots, as somebody described it to me. It was essentially one person telling another person and another business owner, and that's how the bar got into the hands of a lot of people in Boca Raton and Delray Beach, East, West, Central. And it was interesting to navigate at that time because it was like taking buses and biking, and I didn't have a car, so it was one of those things that I had to become accustomed to, and literally go to any lengths to get in front of somebody if I wanted them to try the product.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. So I want to kind of backtrack a little bit to the beginning of your story. And, has fitness always been a part of your life? Like, were you super into fitness as a kid, growing up as an athlete through college? Like, has that always been a staple of who you are?
I think any type of activity was always a staple of who I was. I really, I was never put on any medication as a kid. I was super hyper. I really couldn't focus on organized sports because I would, if I was outside and we'd be playing something, I'd be able to play it, but then I'd get distracted and want to go do something else. So I just like to be around a bunch of people playing sports, whatever it was, so when everybody went from like playground sports to like real organized sports, I wasn't really focused on that. I really like the outdoors. I grew up, outside the city. So I had woods and lakes and fishing and, catching snakes and like just being outside and just running around. I love that. And I didn't really get involved into the whole sports thing until someone introduced me to a gym. And my older brothers had like weight equipment in the basement, but nothing like when I first kind of got introduced, like middle school. Someone was like, "Oh, this is a gym." And I was like, "Oh, this is great." And I really enjoyed it. And, there's always other people in there. And then, that led to, oh, if you're going to strength train, you should play baseball, or, you should come out for the football team. And, I'm a little dude, always, always have been. And, I did what I did and had fun because my friends played, but like I was also the band geek and played trumpet and piano and drums. And I just like to do a lot of different things, which is kind of evident today in my life. Now that I've gotten over a lot of the fear of doing those things, because like when I was younger, I did that.
For those of you who don't know Matt, let's just list off some of the things. Obviously, you're the founder, entrepreneur, CEO of FroPro, right? You're a Lululemon ambassador. You have the Wake Up the Sun podcast that you guys do. You're absolutely everywhere on social media. Your Instagram channel is phenomenal. You're constantly just putting content out there that is super local, super genuine, super authentic. So I mean, everywhere. I see this guy running marathons in Toronto, and then he's back down here in Boca, for some fitness festival a day later. So he's absolutely everywhere, which is part of what I love about Matt so much. So you said you moved down here to be a teacher. When did you know you wanted to be a teacher and coach? When did that come into play that you kind of had that servant mentality, or you wanted to help people?
That kind of was from being, I think younger. I really enjoyed. I had great coaches. I really had some great teachers growing up. My mom was a teacher, and I was just kind of surrounded by that. So I kind of grew up around that. My family was all about giving back. I grew up in, as Episcopalian, so it's like similar to Christianity, Catholicism type thing. But like we grew up serving, we grew up doing things and going to soup kitchens and doing that. So I learned that, and I watched my family do that. And I always got a good feeling from that. And I think, with the whole sports and teaching, I graduated college, and, I went the route of what other people did. They went to finance, they went to law school, and I didn't want to do more school at that time. So like the easiest thing was I got a job in like, an insurance company, and my two other buddies did. So we moved to, just outside of Washington, D.C. And, I found really quickly I wasn't really excited about it. What I did like about it was, to do business with people, I could invite them to the golf course and play golf, or, at the time I could go out and be like, hey, let's go drink some beers. And, all of that was just a really, like, I look at it as like a fifth year of college, because I don't regret any of my experiences because I met a lot of people. But at the same time, I knew it wasn't for me. And I went back to, I literally quit that job, I think like 4 months in, because I really wasn't happy. I found a at-risk center, youth at-risk center to tutor after school. And then I went back to caddying, because like caddying made me happy. I get up early anyway, and I would make a couple $100, caddy 2 loops, and then I go tutor. And, like it was a great thing. And then I said, wow, I really like teaching. I really like being around, and helping kids learn, helping kids like feel safe after like, after school activities. So I was like, maybe I should go back to, grad school. So I moved out of Maryland, DC area back to New York and Connecticut, went to grad school, went through that, taught in Bedford, New York. And, then I was in Stamford, Connecticut. And, that route was just kind of like, let's see how this goes. And, all the while, like I mentioned before we got cut off on the last one, that was a double life for me. I was like Mr. Williams and coach and teacher. And then I was like, bartending in the city on the weekends and making a lot of poor decisions and just being, kind of an idiot. So, eventually those collided, funny enough, May 15th, 2010. So it's coming up on 10 year sobriety this Sunday.
Wow. Well, congrats on the upcoming anniversary. That's unbelievable. Is there a color chip? Is there something specific that happens at 10
I just get the X. I get the coin with the X on it, which is pretty exciting. Yeah. There's no,
That's
the colors,
awesome.
the colors are in the first year. And then it goes to like these like cool medallions and stuff like that you get, anytime you accomplish another year of sobriety.
That's really incredible, and congrats on that. Talk to us about a little bit about like, you had this dual life and you were kind of living both sides of the spectrum on the weekends and during the week. And then it collides. And in 2010, I mean, you got to be thinking to yourself, like, okay, like I've led both of these lives. Everything is now over. What do I do? Where do I go from here? Like, what do I do? Like, I tried to do sales or insurance and all that. Like, I tried to do this. That wasn't for me. I found a path in teaching that I thought I was in and gonna do. That's now gone. What do I do now?
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that. I mean, the number one focus at that time was staying sober. I should say getting sober and learning, from the people that were. And the first year is like crucial. And what everybody says is to focus on that. That's the most important thing. And if you can focus on that and keep that first and at the forefront, then everything else, will come into play. If you put anything in front of that, you're going to lose it and you're going to lose everything else. So I really took that seriously, and I finally was at a place where I had enough pain. And so when that 2010 came, it's funny because I saw this post the other day, and it was like, what was your first? It was some influencer, and she was like, what was your first sales job? And I was trying to think about that because you brought like, selling and this and that.
Yeah.
And I grew up on a public golf course, right? So I used to go at the end of every night. My dad and I would go walk, and we'd just like find golf balls by the stream, by the pond. I'd clean them up, and I would go out with like egg cartons. So I would put, there's 12 eggs in a carton, and I would walk out there and I would sit and I would sell golf balls back to the golfers. That was
What a hustle.
Yeah, so it was like I could get $4 for a carton, and golf balls are expensive even back then. Like even back in the late '80s, early '90s. I mean, golf balls are expensive. So these guys would try and hustle me and get 4 for $1, but I'd always sell 3 for $1, so I could at least get $4 a carton. And that was it. That was the routine, man. And that was like allowed me to spend money at like the pool if I got to go to the town pool with my friends, and like. If you could buy mozzarella sticks as a kid, it was like super cool. But, those are the things. And sorry, I went back there because I literally just thought of that. But
that's awesome.
2010, man, was just focusing on sobriety. And, what I had mentioned before was just starting to do the things that I really like to do. And, I started making my own stuff. And, I was fortunate to pick up a couple of jobs that they called recovery jobs, where it's not too stressful, where you show up, you can be a part, help, whatever it is, and kind of clock in and clock out, but really focus on, I really had to focus on myself, and nothing else could really come in between that.
I think there's a lot of factors that go into the doesn't matter, get better mentality, and I think part of that is being okay asking for help. Like we talk about this all the time, like just ask for help. Like if you feel like you need it. And so obviously that's a big part for you. When you asked for help and guidance, like who were the mentors? Who were the people? Who are the mentors? How many do you have? Who do you really lean on for information coming in? Like what's some of the tidbits or advice you can give on that?
Yeah, no, for me, it was, I was fortunate. My wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she grew up down here. So she had some really good people around her. And because she used to nanny, and like, those families knew her, and they kind of allowed me in to teach and tutor and coach and all this other stuff. And some of the guys that were, the dads and stuff, like they were business guys, and they were, doing their thing. And, I could kind of bounce ideas off them, and, and get some feedback. And those were some of the mentors in the fellowship I'm involved in. It's important that you go there and kind of, as I say in the beginning, obviously talk about how you're feeling, but also really listen for the similarities. And there was a lot of guys that, literally told my story, but had, 15, 20, 30 years. And, going up to them and just be like, hey, like you literally, I literally did exactly what you did. I drank like you did. I partied like you did. And now you have a family, you have kids, you have a house, you have a job, you have all these responsibilities, and like you're genuinely happy about things. And that was one of the biggest motivators to me is, in the very beginning, I saw a guy pick up a 10-year medallion, and I was like, fuck this guy, excuse my language.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Because I was so jealous because I wanted it.
Right.
And I knew if I needed to get there, I had to literally listen to exactly what he did. And emulate that and practice that. And it's like anything else, whether it's business, whatever you're trying to do. and I was good with that. I'm okay with practice. I'm okay with putting in the work, and I learned that from my mother and my father. It's just like put in the work hard, honest day's work, and life can get really good. And I followed that path, and some of the gentlemen that had done this before me and have been around the block a little bit.
So now obviously everybody's talking about COVID, everybody's talking about pivoting, adapting, adjusting, all of that. How has your life kind of prepared you for owning a business, being a relatively small business owner, a local grown guy, local grown business that's had a lot of success, is in Whole Foods, is in a lot of stores, is well known in the local community. You have this presence. How has all of that prepared you for now? And what have you done with FroPro to kind of continue on and stay successful now?
So I I had this conversation with somebody, and it's very similar to, not, this may rub people the wrong way, but what we're going through, in my opinion, because of my experience, this is very much like rehab. Okay. So when I was fortunate enough to go to a program. I had a month or so sober, and I was able to go to a program because I had a lot of things to work on, and there were some therapy things that I need to go through. And the funny thing is when you get to when you get to a program, it's typically like, hey, you can leave anytime you want. That's up to you. We suggest that you follow these simple instructions. And oh, by the way, there's one thing you have to change, and that's everything. And it was a tough pill to swallow. So I look at this as like, we have an authority figure, and many authority figures, doctors and president, whatever, telling us what to do. And, we can make a decision to do what we think is right, or, regardless whether it's you're selfish and you want to do what's right for yourself, or you want to be, someone in the community that's doing the best that they can, and adhering to everything to honor the people that, are uncomfortable or sick or suffering or anything like that. And then it's, you got to change one thing, and that's everything. I had to change the routine, or my wife and I had to change the routine at home. We had to change the routine at business. We had to really look at some areas that we were doing okay in that we needed to be doing better. It's funny, like I've stepped away from LinkedIn, and I said I'd step away for the first 6 months of the year because one of the people that I respect and I follow, she said, you're doing yourself a disservice if you spread yourself too thin. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to focus on Instagram and Facebook and, some of that for my business and my personal brand. That being said, there's a lot of things that I've built and accumulated that I want to start to get out there. And obviously we'll be chatting about that at some point off the air, but, there's a lot of things that we have to do. Online is, look at Jeff Bezos. Online is the future. It has been. And we do just fine there. We're very fortunate for Whole Foods, and very fortunate for several of the retail food locations that are doing curbside or still open. And, we're learning a lot. I've talked to a lot of people in the restaurant business, and a lot of people that are unfortunately either out of business or we're heading in that direction. And, they said, hey, listen, this is what I suggest you do, because they've been around longer than me. This is what I struggle with. And it's been a lot of open and honest conversations that, like anything else in my life, has been really helpful during this time.
It's amazing. There's a lot of commonalities in the story of hearing you've been able to just listen. Just stop and listen to what people are saying, or the guidance that you're getting. Obviously there was a forced stop and listen at some point in your life, but since then, since the success that you found, you continue to just, hey, let me figure out what this person is doing to be successful, and just listen and follow that lead. And I think, we talk about that a lot, that success leaves clues. And if you're just willing to pay attention to what those people are doing and rip off and duplicate it for yourself, there's a lot of success to be found in that. So we're kind of getting close to the time limit here, and I don't want to run over what we normally do, but I'm glad to hear that FroPro is still up and running and doing well. Where can people find it if they want it right now?
If you want it right now, you can go to www.gofropro.com. Website's pretty easy. If you have any questions, if you write in, you can get my wife Chelsea or myself. You can find us on Instagram at GoFroPro. And you can also find me at MWAR Williams. That's MWAR Williams on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. I'm pretty accessible through any social media means. And we'd love to hear from you and have you try the delicious, soon to be 15 flavors, but 14 flavors that we have now. So
birthday cake is delicious. The mint is delicious. I'm a big fan of mixing the mint and the cacao at night for like a little dessert snack instead of having. And speaking of which, I'm hoping that we're going to get some new boxes here soon so that I can get back to what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, man, for sure. Yeah, we have, right now too, if you go to Whole Foods anywhere in the state of Florida, they always have the best deal for when they go on sale. So right now they're 2 for $5. So if you go to Whole Foods, you can get cacao, vanilla, mint, or Tropical Dream, which is the new flavor Flav.
I have not even heard of Tropical Dream yet.
Yeah, Tropical Dream was only available Boca and Del Rey, and now is anywhere in the state. So
awesome. Well, thank you again for joining the conversation. Ton of great nuggets in here, and looking forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.